information about the valve. Where's it located? This is very important that you know, because these guys need attention. Two answers. First place, at the firewall. The firewall is that area between the passenger compartment and the engine compartment. Sitting in the vehicle denotes left and right. This expansion valve is located on the right side of the engine compartment. It's underneath the hood, at the firewall. Can you tell where we are now? Well, there's the expansion valve. And if you're a little savvy about under the hood, you should recognize the master cylinder, which now puts us on the left side. Right side, left side. The expansion valves can be located on the left side or the right side. I wonder if they ever put them in the middle. Yeah, there they are, in the middle. The first place to look for an expansion valve is at the firewall, where the AC lines go through. Here, the expansion valve, another example of how the expansion valve is located at the firewall. Here, we're getting ready to take the expansion valve off. These guys need to be replaced. They do mess up. They do become restricted. The metering of the valve goes off. That means they're not flowing the correct amount of refrigerant. And it's a package deal when you do a compressor job. To get any kind of decent warranty, and they are justified, the expansion valve should be changed. Is this an expansion valve? It's at the firewall. Those are AC lines. But no, that's not an expansion valve. There's something missing. But what's missing? Number 4. That round thing on top is going to make sure that, yes, that is an expansion valve. I'll explain what that round thing does here at the end of this lesson. Yes, we have it. We're at the firewall. There's the number 2. Okay, the number 3 bolt holding the 2 lines at the firewall. What do you think? Is this an expansion valve? Do you see a round thing? No, you don't. This is just a block fitting. Yes, these are AC lines. The second place for the valve to be located is in the dash. Over there. Look at the pointer. Do I have a pointer? Over here. At the expansion valve. And the evaporator is behind the glove box. That's a very common place to put the evaporator. And in some cases, the expansion valve is located there. We have the blower, the expansion valve, the heater. This is the blower. Okay, this is the evaporator. That's the heater core. That's the expansion valve. That's all in the dash. In early models, that means older, Asian vehicles, you could get to the valve through the glove box. That's not the story anymore for any of them. It doesn't have to be the 90 valve type that gives us this particular area of location. You can still have the block valve and be inside the dash. The block valve and the 90-degree valve will be explained. Here's an actual image of an evaporator with the expansion valve. This is what it looks like. This was probably in the dash. Let's start to get a little review of how this works. Over here, high pressure liquid. Well, we should know what liquid means. Here comes the liquid line, and yeah, it is liquid. And if you're following the pointer on the expansion valve, as it passes, the refrigerant comes in, it sprays the super cold, super fast into the evaporator. The evaporator is cold. It does its thing. On the outlet, we're headed toward the suction side. There's 2 types of expansion valves. Let's look inside this one first and then understand how they work. All right, with the red arrow. You see the red arrow? That means 2 things. It'll always mean 2 things. It means hot and high pressure. It also means this is the direction the refrigerant is coming in. Over 200 pounds of pressure in a liquid state will begin to pass through the valve. The valve does have a metering effect. That means it's able to change the size of the flow to help control it. The blue means 2 things. Blue means cold and blue means low pressure. This particular one has, on the left side, is called a sensing bulb or capillary tube. It is feeling the outlet pipe of the evaporator and telling the expansion valve how much it needs to adjust. On this particular expansion valve, the red and the blue still mean the same thing, but this particular expansion valve not only has a sensing bulb, It also has this little pipe. This is for refrigeration oil to directly enter this section of the valve. You mean these moving parts inside the valve need lubrication? Yes, they do. So this particular one is a little bit different. Let's take a look inside the block type. This one might look a little more complicated, but it's not. Let's start with the red. Down here with the red. Let's look at the black arrow. The black arrow indicates direction of flow. As the high pressure refrigerant in a liquid state, that'll come more and more, passes through this particular orifice passage ball, it is metered and it changes into cold coming out of the expansion valve headed into it. What does that round thing do? It senses the temperature. Let me go back and forth just a little bit. This begins to explain this type. Now, this expansion valve is not well represented as the image shows. They're usually of the block type, but it gives you a very good explanation why we have so many pipes coming and going as compared to this one. This particular one only has two pipes, one in and one out. This particular expansion valve has twice as many. Let's understand it. This particular image is one of the best ones when it changes when it shows the color change of the temperature. Here's the compressor. As it's coming out, the refrigerant, it's hot and it's high pressure. As it begins, follow the pointer. As it begins to go through the condenser, heat is removed. It changes into less heat. It's still warm when it comes out. It's not cold. It should not be cold. It should feel warm. It goes through the dryer. The dryer holds any moisture and creates a separation. The refrigerant comes in here. It goes through the passage of the evaporator. This is where it's dark blue because that's where it's very, very cold. Over here, as it starts to go through the evaporator, it changes the blue to a medium blue. This is still very, very cold. As it exits the evaporator, it's a light blue, and this explains the round thing on the top. As the refrigerant passes back through the valve, all it does is measure the temperature. We don't need this external capillary tube. As the refrigerant has gone through the evaporator and now is passing through the valve, headed back to the compressor, it is telling the valve exactly how to open. This one is much simpler.